I am 27 years old, Annie. Recently, my father, Gilbert, was hospitalized. He runs a small company and has been given 6 months to live by his doctor. Throughout my life, he has always been my support. That's why I am still spending time by his bedridden side. During such times, my sister Benny appeared in the hospital room. "Annie, listen to me," she said in a domineering tone. "I'm going to inherit all of our father's $7 million. Why bring up money at a time like this?" I couldn't believe my sister would bring up the inheritance. "Shut up, you uneducated fool," she scorned. "She's no longer someone I can call a sister. She has been bullying me since we were children." Benny left the hospital room with a loud laugh. I was so angry I could hardly breathe. "Annie, listen to me," my father said quietly. "I can't leave the inheritance to you." "What do you mean? Are you telling me to submit to her?" I was shocked. "Just listen." Actually, my father began to explain the reason. Looking back, I hardly remember getting along with my sister Benny as a child. Our mother adored Benny, always putting her first. In our lessons, Benny was the priority, and I was always left behind. I spent my time being bullied by Benny and her friends, crying. For no particular reason, Benny and her friends even resorted to violence against me. But my mother always took Benny's side. "There's no way your sister would do such a thing," my mother would insist. But, my sister," I pleaded, but instead of comforting me, my mother would just scold me. The worst part was that I was in the same school commute group as my sister. Even thinking about it now, it was a truly horrible situation. I don't know what Benny told everyone, but because of that, I was harassed by many older students. School was just a place of agony. I liked studying itself, but going to school was really tough. At school, I was bullied by Benny and her followers, and treated like a problem child by the teachers. Every time my mother was called to the school, I would come home to hear harsh words from her. Those days were like a living hell, truly a nightmare. I couldn't trust anyone, and there was no one I could rely on. I hated everyone: my mother, my sister, her friends, and the teachers. But there was someone I could depend on. That was my father. He ran a small factory. Though it was a small company, it was growing every year, thanks to my father's ingenuity and ideas. My only ally was my father, the president of this quirky company. When my father was home, I always stayed close to him. In front of my father, neither my mother nor my sister harassed me. Being by my father's side was the only place where I felt safe. It seemed that my father understood as well, for he always kindly accepted me when I cried and clung to his pants. He would also sternly reprimand Benny. When I was in high school, my father called out to me, "Annie, from now on I will be busier and won't be able to be with you all the time. No matter what Benny does to you, don't give up. Study hard and become strong." My father told me. "Yes, I'll try my best. I'll study hard so I won't lose to my sister." As a high school student, I understood. The only way to escape this life was to continue studying persistently. Even if I sought help from someone, somehow Benny would be the one praised. That's why I was determined to rise up on my own. Thanks to my mother paying for my tuition, I attended cram school and studied desperately. As a result of my efforts, I was able to pass the entrance exams to a top university. I achieved a higher level of education than Benny, who graduated from a third-rate university that only the rich attend. However, my sister told my friends and neighbors. Annie herself said that she only passed the university exams by cheating. It's really embarrassing to have a sister who doesn't make any effort and gets in through the back door using money. Because of this, my friends drifted away, and the local ladies started to look at me coldly. Despite that, I continued to study hard without being discouraged. I endured the harassment from Benny with patience and did not give in. As a result, I was able to achieve my dream of obtaining a lawyer's qualification. When I became a lawyer, my mother sided with Benny and made snide remarks. "You must have cheated, right? Can you really be a lawyer? There's no way you can do that," my mother coldly said. I decided it was a waste of time to care about their comments and ignored them. That was also a part of my strength. I became mentally stronger, not losing to baseless rumors. Benny, who only has a social standing but no real strength, was very different from me. My father praised me as well. You've done very well, truly admirable. Just like my daughter should be. You can become even stronger, and you are my pride. Then Benny appeared and said, You probably can't do it after all, right? Can you really handle being a lawyer? Since you got your qualification by cheating, you should quit being a lawyer before you cause trouble for others. Hearing this, my father sternly told her, You're the one who just plays around, always gives up easily, and just eats whatever you like, a complete waste. Try to learn a bit from Annie. That scolding from my father worsened the relationship between him and Benny at once. Looking back, that moment was a turning point in their relationship. I was able to stay on the right path because of my father's understanding and support. As a lawyer, I have been building up my accomplishments slowly but surely. I wanted to talk more about my work with my father, but I didn't feel like visiting my parents' home because Benny was there. My sister always had a hard time keeping jobs and would spend her time doing part-time or short-term work, but my mother never said anything harsh to Benny. You don't have to work hard because you'll take over after your father. My mother always coddled Benny like that. Even though I wanted to visit my parents' home, I was concerned about how the neighbors would see me. The neighbors, who still remember the stories Benny made up, are cold to me. So, when I go near my parents' home, I only call my father and we go out to eat, just the two of us. I try not to go to my parents' house unless necessary, but when I have time, I go out to eat with my father or talk to him on the phone. One day, when work was going smoothly, I sent an email to my father as usual, but there was no reply for several days. I wonder if he is too busy with work, I thought, but usually he would reply to an email after a few days. Feeling that something was off, I suddenly received a call from my mother, who usually doesn't contact me much. Your father has been hospitalized, my mother told me. What? I exclaimed in surprise and quickly rearranged my work schedule, rushing to the hospital near my parents' house. When I arrived at the hospital, I found my mother crying. No matter what I asked, she just cried and wouldn't tell me where my father was. So I contacted an employee of my father's company and got the room number. Even in such an emergency, my mother, who dislikes me, wouldn't tell me anything, and I was frustrated by the petty and self-centered emotions of people. Dad, it's Annie. May I come in? I quietly opened the door to the hospital room and entered. There, my father lay emaciated, and there was no one else in the room. Your mother just left. You came at just the right time. Dad, what happened? I was shocked by my father's frail appearance. Who told you the room number? My father asked. I got it from someone at your company. I see. Don't worry, I'll be all right. I'll be back to work soon, he said while coughing. But he didn't look like he could return to work anytime soon. As I was about to leave the hospital room, a doctor approached me. Are you his daughter? Yes, I am, I replied. The doctor took me to another room and explained my father's condition in detail. We found cancer. He has about 6 months to live, the doctor said. Hearing those words, I was lost for words and left the hospital. Since then, I have tried to adjust my work schedule to visit my father as often as possible. Day by day, my father continued to lose weight, and it was clear that his already slim body was becoming even more emaciated. It was obvious at a glance that his condition was not normal. One day, when I went to visit my father, my sister Benny happened to arrive at the same time. I unexpectedly ran into her. Why is the low-educated Annie here? Benny said. I wanted to scream back, who's the low-educated one here? But I held it in. Thinking about Benny, who stays at our parents' home doing nothing but playing around, made my anger boil. As I struggled to contain it, my weakened father groaned. Stop it, Benny. What are you doing here? I'm in this condition, and I don't have any money left to give you, my father said. Did you come here to get money even though Dad is like this? I can't believe it. That's really terrible. I screamed inwardly. I had a lot to say, but Benny spoke first. Listen carefully, Annie, she said with a domineering attitude. I'm going to inherit all of Dad's $7 million, and I won't give a single dollar to you. Also, you should renounce your inheritance. I will take over Dad's company, so don't worry. I was so dumbfounded by this that I was at a loss for words. discussing money in such a situation without any concern for our father's health. Benny left the hospital room laughing. Benny, who does nothing but gallivant around, says she will take over the company. I felt that such talk was nothing short of a joke. Benny is really the worst. I struggled to suppress my explosive anger. Listen carefully, Annie, my father said quietly. I can't pass the inheritance to you. What do you mean? Are you saying I should just submit to someone like her? I was shocked. It's okay. I couldn't hide my disturbance. Could it really be that my father has no intention of leaving me the inheritance? I told myself that receiving the inheritance isn't everything. Why is that? Just listen. Actually, my father began to explain the reason. After hearing about the current state of the company, I was at a loss for words. Listen, no matter what happens, don't even think about trying to inherit the estate. Okay. It's getting dark outside. You should go home now. You have work tomorrow, right? Prompted by my father, I returned to my apartment, which was a little distance away. The next morning, I was so busy with work that I didn't even have time to email my father. Later, my father's condition suddenly worsened, and although he had been diagnosed with only 6 months left to live, he passed away 2 months earlier. During the funeral, at the family meeting, I complied with my father's wishes and agreed to let Benny inherit everything. I confirmed the will with the lawyer in charge, and it too stated that all the inheritance should go to Benny. Hearing this, not only Benny but also my mother blamed me. A cunning person like you could never handle being the president of the company. That's right, both the company and the inheritance are all mine. Unfortunately for you, you'll be poor from now on. Benny continued. They said this without even knowing how much a lawyer earns. I left my parents' house in dismay. I probably won't return there ever again. The house had an air of neglect about it. I participated in my father's funeral only minimally and returned to work the same day. One day during work, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. It wasn't a number from any client, so I didn't answer the phone. I had a pretty good idea who it might be. It was probably Benny. However, I was curious how she found out the main number of the law firm I worked for. One day, Benny did call through the main office number, but I was extremely busy at the time, barely having time to eat. Who could it be at such a time? I wondered as I answered the phone, only to be greeted by yelling from the other end. You knew about it, didn't you? Excuse me? Who is this? Start with your name at least. It's me, Benny. Benny? I don't know any Benny. Shut up, you're annoying, Benny yelled. So, what do you want? I'm busy. You knew Dad had debts, right? What does it matter if I knew? What do you want now? I'm running out of money to play with, so you need to sort out Dad's debts. Ah, I'm hanging up now. Deal with it yourself, I said coldly, and hung up the phone. I instructed the office not to put through calls from Benny anymore. In the hospital room, my father had confided in me alone about his debts. Benny had assumed the inheritance was $7 million and never dreamed that there was also $10 million in debt. Inheriting an estate doesn't always mean receiving only assets. Debts are inherited as well. Benny, being short-sighted and careless, was only focused on the inheritance and had not considered the debts at all. Perhaps my father had tried to discuss the debts. However, given Benny's personality, she probably ignored the discussion about debts and only paid attention to what she could inherit. She is a pitiable person. However, I had no intention of helping her. Enjoy the debt-ridden life with our mother. That was the only thing I could say to her. Later, I found out that Benny was living a terrible life, taking on more debt to repay existing debts. Her financial situation was extremely dire. The debt was only growing, getting bigger and bigger. Considering her lazy lifestyle up to this point, I couldn't help but scoff. I am not delighting in someone else's misfortune. It's just that the many wrongs she has done to me over the years are finally coming back to haunt her. I had no intention of helping her. I felt it was just desserts. Afterward, my mother also called multiple times asking for money. Please, help your mother. Even a little bit of money would help, she pleaded tearfully. I was astounded by the request. All this time she only cared about my sister, ignoring me completely, and now she comes to me only when she's in trouble. What a naive idea. I instructed my office not to forward any calls from my parents' home, and I blocked my sister's and mother's numbers on my mobile phone. I even made sure that calls from public phones wouldn't connect. Nevertheless, they somehow changed numbers and called me repeatedly. It was as if they were standing on the edge of a cliff, screaming for help because they were about to fall. But I did nothing. In fact, I felt like I was saying goodbye and pushing them off the cliff. I never imagined that what my sister had done to me over the years would come back to her in this way. Later, another piece of news arrived. Incredibly, Benny was being sued by former employees of my father's company. The reason was unpaid wages. Benny had not paid the employees for 2 months. She must be cornered by her debts. It was a disaster waiting to happen. Moreover, the employees wanted to hire me as their lawyer. "Annie, you are diligent and honest. You're the only one we can rely on. Please do something about that, Benny," they said. I saw this as an opportunity and decided to protect my father's cherished company. I took legal action and removed Benny and my mother from the company. As we left the courtroom, the two of them called me a traitor and stormed off. Following the employees' wishes, I temporarily took on the role of the company's president. Originally, I planned to appoint someone as president immediately and focus solely on my legal career, but the employees said this: "We don't trust anyone but you, Annie. You're the one who protected us and the company. Annie, you're our leader." I was simply following what was said, but I didn't feel bad about it, and decided to quit being a lawyer and take over my late father's business. I've always liked manufacturing, but I never imagined I would take over my late father's business like this. The workplace had a homely atmosphere and was very comfortable. The employees knew me as someone who always learned by my father's side. Unlike Benny, who wasted her time in frivolity, the employees understood the true nature of us sisters. That's probably why it was natural for them to rely on me. I managed to grow the company. Having knowledge of the law also helped, and without major issues, the company smoothly progressed as a subcontractor for various other companies. The number of employees gradually increased, and we decided to relocate to a larger space. Moreover, we established a staff dormitory and expanded the types of allowances to enhance employee benefits. As a result, our company was featured on local television as a great place to work. When asked what the key to success was, I replied, "Patience and effort are everything. It's important to continue working diligently because then the results will naturally follow." I focused on developing our employees, which has helped the company grow. Although I was fulfilled in my work as a lawyer, I find even greater satisfaction in what I'm doing now. If I had given in to interference and quit, I'd probably be leading an undisciplined life now, feeling apathetic about everything. Blaming others for your failures or speaking ill of them won't make anyone want to follow you. I learned this, surprisingly, from my sister and mother. I do not want to be like them. All I want is to live honestly and sincerely, but seeing my sister and mother, who can't even do that, I realize how miserable they are. Now, that's how I feel. Later, I made a name for myself as a female CEO and started dating a man I met through work. I have no knowledge of what became of my sister and mother. I have neither the desire to look for them nor to help them. Considering how much of a burden their actions were on the employees, I can't bring myself to feel that way. My sister and mother will probably never return here. And after several years of dating, I got married. My husband is a talented young entrepreneur who has successfully run a small factory, and we hit it off. We had a small but heartwarming wedding that was true to us. The happiness I felt at that time was beyond anything I had ever experienced. Soon after our wedding, I found out I was pregnant, and a baby boy will be born soon. That alone would have been enough. "Excuse me, Madam President." One of the employees burst into the room in a rush. Fortunately, no one else was there at the time, which was a relief, but the employee said excitedly, "Benny is here." "What? Why now?" Holding my swollen belly, I stepped outside. There stood Benny, dressed shabbily and looking unclean. Benny declared threateningly, "This company is mine. Annie, with your unkempt appearance, you can't be the president. I should take over as president." Hearing this, some employees who were listening threw water at Benny. These were the employees who had been forced to work without pay when Benny was the president. "Get out. Annie is our president. You're not fit to be president. Just leave. You're nothing but trash." I was astonished at this moment. Even though there used to be no one I could rely on but my father, now I had never imagined that so many people trusted me. We'll get rid of her quickly, so please go back inside, Madam President. Many employees were protecting me from Benny. Annie, please help me. Please leave. You're only causing trouble for everyone. I finally voiced the words I had long held back in my heart. I truly hate you. I slowly walked back to my office. I don't know what happened to Benny afterward. And then, I gave birth to a healthy boy and received warm congratulations from everyone around me. Since I started working on rebuilding the company as its president, the expressions of the employees visibly changed. Employees who used to work with gloomy faces gradually regained their lovely smiles. Once, an employee who had worked with my father came to me and said, "President Annie, we all really love you." The moment I heard those words, my heart warmed and I was filled with emotion. Despite not receiving enough recognition even from my own family before, now I am trusted and loved by so many colleagues. My heart was filled with gratitude and joy at this fact. Thank you so much. However, this achievement isn't solely my own. It has been possible only because of the continuous support and cooperation from each and every one of you. While expressing my sincere gratitude deep down, I remembered the words my father once said to me, "You can become stronger." Back then I heard them just as words of encouragement, but now I realize that my father's words have become reality. The company was gradually stabilizing, and I was thinking of trying new initiatives. In particular, I focused on creating a work environment where women could thrive. As specific measures, we enhanced our maternity leave policy and introduced a flexible work schedule to make it easier for employees to work freely. Furthermore, as part of our support for parenting, we also established an on-site daycare. These initiatives have attracted attention both internally and externally, and are especially appreciated by our female employees. Thanks to you, Madam President, I can continue working even after having children, one female employee told me with emotion in her voice. Tears of gratitude welled up in her eyes, and in that moment, I deeply felt the significance of my role as the president of the company. Being president had become about more than just sustaining the company. Seeing how company policies directly improved people's lives and guided them towards a better future was an immense joy, and brought a profound sense of responsibility. However, this journey hasn't been entirely smooth sailing. Once an employee who had worked with my father approached me and said, "President Annie, we all really love you." At that moment, I felt a warmth in my chest and was overwhelmed with emotion. Despite not getting enough recognition from my own family, now I was trusted and loved by so many colleagues. This fact filled my heart with gratitude and joy. Thank you very much. However, this achievement is not solely my own. It has been possible because of the relentless support and cooperation from each one of you. While expressing my sincere gratitude, I remembered the words my father had once said to me, "You can become stronger." At the time, I took it as just words of encouragement, but now I realize that my father's words have become a reality. The company was gradually stabilizing, and I was thinking about new initiatives. Especially, I focused on creating a work environment conducive to women. At the company, we implemented more comprehensive maternity leave and introduced flexible working hours to make it easier for employees to manage their schedules. We also set up a daycare center as part of our parenting support. This environment garnered attention both inside and outside the company, and it was particularly well received by our female employees. Thanks to you, President, I can continue working even after having children. One female employee told me with a trembling voice filled with emotion. Tears of gratitude appeared in her eyes, and at that moment, I deeply felt the significance of my role as the president of the company. The job of a president had become more than just sustaining the company. Seeing how company policies directly improved people's lives and guided them towards better futures was an immense joy and brought a profound sense of responsibility. However, this path hasn't been entirely smooth sailing. In particular, as a young female president, I often faced opposition and criticism from traditional viewpoints within the industry. Is it really okay to have such a young female president? And she'll probably give up soon, were negative comments that occasionally reached my ears. Yet, no matter the criticism, I was never discouraged. I remained strong because of the importance of perseverance taught by my father and the experience I had gained from my efforts. During this time, I was unexpectedly contacted by the local Chamber of Commerce. "President Annie, could you give a talk at our place? We are running a program to support female entrepreneurs." The request was so sudden that I hesitated at first about what to answer. However, upon reflection, I grew increasingly convinced that my accumulated experiences could be valuable to women who were aspiring to start their own businesses. Moved by this thought, I decided to accept the invitation to speak. On the day of the event, as I entered the venue, many women sat with faces full of anticipation. I took this opportunity to honestly share my past experiences. Specifically, I talked about my complex family background, the criticism and difficulties I faced from society, and how I overcame each of these challenges. After the talk, a woman hesitantly approached me. "Actually, my family is opposed to me starting a business. But hearing your story, President Annie, I've decided not to give up," she said. I remembered the similar situations I had faced myself and told her, "You'll be okay. Value the people around you who support you, and keep believing in yourself." This simple advice, born from my own experience, made me realize that running a company is not my only role. I feel my presence and efforts can be a source of hope, especially for women facing difficulties. And gradually, my efforts began to be recognized by society. During this time, a large envelope was delivered to my office. Inside was a certificate of recognition from a local economic organization. The certificate read, "In recognition of your contributions to the development of the regional economy as a female executive, and for giving courage and hope to many people, especially women." The moment I saw the words on the certificate, I was moved to tears. If my father were watching from heaven, I truly felt he would be proud of what I had accomplished.